The same Windhowler team gave me two very different results. One attack did 4.055 billion damage, another did 3.752 billion. Same three heroes, same 192,400 troops. No upgrades in between. That is a difference of more than 303 million damage, and that immediately creates a problem. If I tested this team only once, which result would I believe? Because Endless Trials does not rank your average damage. It ranks your highest single attack, and that changes how you should approach this event, especially if you are a low or moderate spender who cannot simply copy the newest heroes from a whale account. So instead of giving you another best Windhowler heroes list, I wanted to find out something more useful. How do you actually find the best Windhowler team for the account you already have? First, we need to understand what Endless Trials removes from the equation. Windhowler is not Bear Hunt with a different boss. The event gives you up to 30 solo attacks per day. Rallies are not allowed. Your troop ratio is supplied automatically. On this account, every report showed 64,134 infantry, 64,133 lancers, and 64,133 marksmen. That is basically a fixed 1-to-1-to-1 formation. You cannot change the ratio. Normal city buffs do not apply. State positions do not apply. President skills do not apply. Frost Dragon titles do not apply. And pet skills are already active by default. So several of the things we normally manipulate for Bear Hunt are simply gone. That means one of the biggest remaining decisions is your hero lineup, and that is where things get interesting. To test this properly, I kept as many variables unchanged as possible. Same account, same troop count, no chief gear changes, no hero gear changes, no tech upgrades, no hero upgrades between attempts. Then I changed one hero at a time. Let's start with the Lancer slot. With Edith and Bradley fixed, I tested several Lancers. The newer option was not automatically the winner. Across 5 verified Edith, Bradley, Renee attempts, the results stayed around 3.69 billion damage on average, with the best attempt around 3.73 billion. But when Reina took the Lancer slot, the same account reached 4.055 billion. That does not prove Reina is universally better than Renee. It proves something much more useful. Hero generation by itself is not enough to choose your Windhowler team, and when we look at the skills, we can understand why testing matters. Reina's Expedition Kit directly increases normal attack damage for all troops. Her Lancers also have a 25% chance to perform an extra attack dealing 200% damage. Renee also has a very offensive kit. Her Lancers apply Dream Marks. Those marks can enable extra Lancer damage and increase the damage dealt to marked targets. So this is not a case where one hero is offensive and the other is defensive. Both can contribute damage. But they do it through different mechanics, and Windhowler does not tell us that one skill pattern will automatically outperform another on every account. That is why the result has to be tested. Mia creates the same problem in another way. Her expedition skills contain multiple chance effects. She can have a 50% chance to make the enemy take more damage, and another 50% chance to increase troop attack. So even before we look at the final score, we already know that some hero kits can naturally create variation between attempts. And that takes us back to the first problem. One attack is not enough. We saw the exact same Edith, Bradley, Reina lineup produce 4.055 billion and 3.752 billion. More than 303 million damage apart. Nothing changed on the account. So if you attack once with Reina, once with Renee, and once with Mia, then immediately declare a winner, you may just be comparing 3 different roles instead of 3 reliable hero tests. The Infantry test gave us another surprise. This time I kept Bradley and Reina fixed and compared Infantry heroes. The older Hector lineup produced our strongest repeated results in this test. Across 4 verified Hector, Bradley, Reina attempts, the average was about 3.98 billion damage, with a best hit of roughly 4.076 billion. Again, that does not mean Hector is universally better than Edith, but their expedition kits help explain why a pure damage event may produce a different answer from PvP. Edith brings strong survivability and Lancer support. Hector has much more direct offensive behavior. His rampant skill heavily boosts infantry and marksman damage for a limited number of attacks, and Blitz gives all troops a 25% chance to deal 200% damage, so a newer PvP hero is not automatically the better damage event hero. That is another reason I would be very careful with online advice that simply says, use your newest 3 heroes, or use your 3 highest power heroes. Windhowler is testing something more specific than hero age or total power. It is testing how the expedition kits on your actual roster perform inside this fixed event, and that matters even more for low and moderate spenders. If someone posts a high Windhowler score using an older hero, that does not mean you should immediately spend shards, widgets, or gear resources rebuilding that hero. Test what you already own first. If an older hero you already invested in performs better here, that is free value. Now look at the troop damage reports. Even though Windhowler forces an almost perfect 1-to-1-to-1 troop ratio, the damage does not stay evenly split. One Edith Bradley Reina report had Lancers contributing almost 47% of the total damage. Another lineup pushed marksman contribution above 50%. So hero choice is not just moving the final number, it can change where that damage is coming from. But this is also why I would not call Windhowler a Lancer event or a marksman event. Our own reports change depending on the heroes. The safer conclusion is that your heroes can change the damage distribution even when the troop ratio is fixed. Now we can finally make sense of the 30 daily attempts. If you only care about participation rewards, the event screen on this account finished those after the first 3 attacks. You do not need 30 attempts just to participate. But if you care about achievements or ranking, those extra attempts become useful. I would split them into 2 phases. Phase 1, test. Choose a serious candidate lineup. Keep 2 heroes fixed. Change only 1 hero. Then repeat the setup. Do not compare 1 attack against 1 attack. For a practical starting point, I would use around 3 attempts per serious candidate. That is not some magical statistical rule. It is simply enough to start seeing whether one result was unusual. If 2 lineups are still very close, test them more. Then look at 3 things. First, typical performance. Your average or median gives you an idea of what the lineup normally does. Second, consistency. How far apart are the good and bad attempts? And third, ceiling. What is the best hit the lineup has produced? That third number matters because Windhowler ultimately ranks your highest single attack. Which brings us to phase 2. Chase. Once one lineup repeatedly looks like your strongest candidate, stop changing heroes. Use the remaining attempts on that lineup. At this point, the variation that made testing frustrating can actually work in your favor. You are no longer trying to learn which lineup is better. You are trying to produce the best possible result from the lineup you already identified. So the system becomes simple. Lock the variables. Do not upgrade things halfway through your comparison. Change 1 hero at a time. Otherwise, you do not know what caused the result. Repeat the test. 1 attack can badly misrepresent a lineup's normal performance. Find your strongest candidate. Use repeated results, not hero generation alone. Then chase the ceiling. Because the leaderboard does not care which lineup had the prettiest average, it keeps your best hit. So if you remember one rule from this video, make it this. Test with averages. Rank with highs. That method does not depend on being Gen 7. It does not depend on owning Reina, Hector, Edith, Mia, Renee, or Bradley. And it does not depend on copying somebody else's hero tier list. Use the roster you actually have. Control the variables, test the combinations, then let your own battle reports tell you which team deserves the rest of your attempts. That is how I would approach endless trials without wasting upgrades or guessing from a single Windhowler hit.